Hello, everybody. This is Debo at Debo's Movie Reviews here, and I'm gonna review Oh Brother Raw File, directed by the Coen Brothers, starring George Clooney as Everett McGill, John Turturro as Pete Hogwallop, Tim Blake Nelson as Delmar, featuring Charles Durning as Pappy O'Dowd, Holly Hunter as Penny, who was Everett's wife, Chris Thomas King as Tommy Johnson, who was a take on Robert Johnson, and of course, you got Daniel Von Bargen as the sheriff who's on their trail, and Ray McKinnon as Vernon Waltrip. I mean, talk about one of the most iconic movies of the early 2000s. I'll say this much. I mean, and practically one movie that got Clooney on the right track after his failure as Batman. Because yeah, I gotta say, this is one where he definitely stepped his game up, and you know, frankly, a lot of people just had great performances in this movie. I mean, it's just pretty much one of the most iconic movies of the early 2000s. I mean, great acting, great music, great villains, and like the sheriff and Homer Stokes, and and got handed the Coen Brothers to introduce Greek mythology to rednecks by taking the Odyssey and rewriting it to a story about escaped convicts in Depression era South and their old ventures from the misadventures, that is, from when Pete and Delmar get saved after escaping from his cousin, after the Smokies tried to get them smoke him out at their place, and then of course they steal his Maltese, and then of course they get that whole sequence where they're at the revival and their old preachers just baptizing people and all, and ooh, and then of course when they meet old Tommy, and then they form the Soggy Bottom Boys. And of course, gotta give it old Stephen Root as that blind DJ. I mean, he's he knocked it out of the park. I'm talking about how. I mean, that guy's just an underrated actor right there. I mean, I've been a fan of him since King of the Hill. And of course, gotta give it. Of course, the old man of constant sorrow. It got every. I mean, it introduced a whole generation to respect the old timey classics of bluegrass. That is. I mean, come on. Although I'm pretty sure a lot of people did not realize that was not Clooney's real singing voice in that movie. But in later sequels, that was Tim Blake Nelson's pretty much the only one who really did sing. With when they're at the Stokes infiltrated the Stokes rally at the singing at jail in the jailhouse now. But instead that was just I can't remember who the guy was, but he was in Alison Krause's band, which of course she was singing at that scene with the baptism scene, while the Homer Stokes campaign was belting out Carter Family's "Keep on the Sunny Side." With, I mean, Like, come on. Talk about how epic that song was, but not to be associated with that asshole Stokes, because you find out his true colors at the end of how you get with Pappy O'Daniel, who not only had the flower business but was governor of Mississippi at the time and hosted the radio show. I mean, that guy got around. And I gotta give it to old Charles Durning. He knocked that out of the park with that role. I mean, but everybody did, especially John Goodman as Big Dan Teague. I mean, in fanfare, you can almost say it was like a prequel to the Righteous Gemstones, right there, with it, to where he was the Bible salesman in that, and then of course you get that series where he's the mega church preacher, and then of course they get that anyway epic montage with that I'll fly away right before they go in that town, and then you hear and Everett finds his daughter singing "Into Highways," and then of course he meets up with his ex-wife, and then or soon to be ex, and after lying to Don't Worry Pete about robbing her car when he was really practicing law without a license and all. And hell, gotta get. And now talk about a funny scene where he's talking about when he's getting with old Waldrop and such, and then get kicked out, only to set, and then the guy goes, "Stay out of world's worth." I mean, yeah, kind of more epic up like that part where they met up with Babyface Nelson, or should I say George Nelson, because remember, Jesus saves, but George Nelson withdraws. And because that's one accurate take on Nelson, was how much he hated the name Babyface. I mean, I gotta give it a little line of funny part when he was in the car getting in the middle of a chase, and then of course he gets that scene in it. Then of course, then there was sequence where Pete gets out, and then they have to break him out again, and oof, talking about epic from like the beginning where they were on that train on that pedal car, and the blind guy says the old story, talks about tells their old path and all. I mean, talk about epic reviews, epic epic take on that one. Hell, well, I give it a gotta say old George Nelson just take on there, because I mean just Psycho, and now although according to a little booklet in the soundtrack, it did take place in the late 30s, where mid to late, which is a year canonically a year after the real Nelson was supposedly killed. But practically one of the best performances of Babyface, nonetheless. And of course, with Pete getting captured, and then they meet at the theater, and they go, and he's going, "Don't sink the treasure." And of course, ever saying there is no treasure. You two are just unluckily tied into the chain gang and all. But of course I had drinks from from when they infiltrate that KKK ride to rescue Tommy, and then of course infiltrate the Stokes rally and then put him in his place. And of course, got all that. Got all that. I mean, but overall, and I got to give it to old Daniel Von Bargen as the sheriff. I mean, he always played good cops and all. I mean, come on, from like Shaft, Super Troopers, the first one, and this right here. I mean, just knocked out of the park. But then again, can't really say the Coen Brothers has never directed a bad movie. They are pretty much the anti Uwe Boll when it comes to movie directing. But overall, I gotta give Oh Bro Raffle bona fide 5 out of 5 because this movie's bona fide right here. But hey, I gotta give it to old Ray McKinnon as Vernon Walter. I've already mentioned before, but I just didn't realize that was him. I looked up Internet Movie Database, and then right before I did this review, and of course, it blew my mind from because I always associated him with his role on the Mayans in season 4 of Sons of Anarchy as Lincoln Potter in Deadwood. But overall, good character. But like I said, this movie right here, a bona fide 5 out of 5. I mean, perfect casting all around. Great soundtrack. I mean, how can you not like this movie? I mean, come on. It might have our volume, but not. I trust you. To the less religious crowd, it ain't preachy. I'll say this much. All right, y'all. That'll do it for this week. I'll keep dishing out the reviews, and y'all keep subscribing and watching. And enjoy, everybody.